But I think it's finally time for me to move on. I think this might be the last Altergeist profile, at least for the time being. Limited, we... what timeline is this where... Altergeist Multifakers limited? But why? It's fine. I don't play Altergeist anymore. Hello, I just top 4'd the UDS, and that was pretty wild because I was playing Altergeist. This is my first Premier top. You know, I couldn't get in there with 3 multi-faker, but with 1 multi-faker I actually managed to top. I am very tired, so forgive me. This was the hardest event I've ever played in. If you don't know what a UDS is, you have to have a ton of points to enter it, so you have to go to a lot of events. So it's mostly good players, and then it was 13 rounds of Swiss, so that is more than any other event I've ever played in, and against like YCS winners, world's competitors, all these things, so many difficult rounds. I went 11-2 in Swiss. I finished 3rd after Swiss, and then it cut to top 16. In top 16, I got a game loss for a deck error, which I'll talk about later on in the video. Despite that, I still managed to 2-0 my opponent, even with that game 1 loss, and then I won top 8, 2-0, and then I lost in top 4, and if you grab my feature match for top 4, which is probably up, you probably know that I really punted it, and I was just so tired. It's been so many rounds of Yu-Gi-Oh, and I love Yu-Gi-Oh, I love playing Altergeist, but that was like my only real misplay of the tournament, and it cost me top 4. It's alright though. I'm just really happy to like have made it this far, and I do want to say like it's cool still because I got this prize card, this Ascension Sky Dragon, which is kind of neat. I got this cool mat with Elemental Hero Stratos on, which is kind of cool, and yeah, and then one last thing before we get the profile, I just wanted to say a huge shout out to like every single one that was cheering me on. Like so many people were messaging me on Facebook, my friends and stuff. Shout out to all the Yu-Gi tubers. Shout out, I'm not gonna shout out too many people specifically, but Ed for keeping my spirits up during like the last 6 months after bubbling YCS Chicago. Ricky and Austin, my teammates, and then my girlfriend behind the camera, who always has to listen to me do test hands like late into the night. I really tried hard this event, and I just I couldn't be happier with the performance. And I also just wanted to say that Altergeists, they're in a rough spot. Like they're not the best deck, but I definitely I felt like I could capitalize on the fact that the format was like kind of new, and I just thought I'd play a deck that didn't care what my opponent was playing because it just set up so many negations. So anyway, let's get into the profile. So we first have 3 copies of Marionetter, obviously, really good card. 3 copies of Mulseek, the best card in the deck by far. This is the one where if this card was at 1 but Fakir was at 3, I wouldn't play this deck, but this is like, this just outs everything. It's so strong, and I like it a lot, so obviously you're gonna play 3. 2 copies of the Silk, it's fine. Like, I guess some people might say like, oh, just play 1 copy, use 1 Faker, but it's okay. And this card actually got better with the Salem and Great Link monster, which we'll talk about near the end. And then the mono faker, it's not multi-faker anymore. Honestly, does this go into 1 matter? Yeah, like it matters because you don't open it as often. But once you get the combos going, like you can recycle it a lot. One thing that a lot of things have to change. You can't, really, unless you draw like insane, you can no longer do the double Hexia with multi-faker in hand and protocol set. That doesn't work anymore. You need way too many cards because the problem is once you use the multi-faker for an Xyz summon, or not Xyz summon, but multi-faker, for a Link summon, then it's like, that's the only copy, it's in the grave. So you have to use the manifestation on the multi-faker, so you can't use the manifestation on the second copy of Hexia. So that kind of changed. But once you get going, it's fine. And so overall, I didn't notice multi-faker being at 1 to be like a huge hindrance. Obviously, you don't open Impermanence multi-faker as often. I opened it once the entire tournament, and I won that game, obviously, but that's not going to happen very often. But multi-faker being at 1, it hurts, but it's not like the worst thing in the world. And then I played 1 concrete. Shout out to the fan that found me on the day 1 and gave me the super rare version that like just came out this Friday or whatever. Really good card, especially because multi-faker's at 1. If you already have access to it, like you just have nothing else to search, so you just want to add the concrete. And with Judgment being at 3, the concrete is really important because you're at such low life points, like it's just crazy. So having something that can stop attacks is super helpful. Also, I guess technically like you can grab this with Sangan, but I'll talk about Sangan now. Sangan sucks. This is the worst card in the deck. This is so bad. I can't believe I even played this card. I was gonna play 2, but my early testing proved that like I didn't think the card was that good. So I dropped 1 for the duality, and Sangan is just, it's so bad. I drew it probably 6 times, and I only summoned it once, and it didn't actually help. The problem is if you have Marionetter, you don't want to summon Sangan. If you have Maluseek, you don't want to summon Sangan. So the only time Sangan's actually good is when you have exactly 4 cards, 4 trap cards, and the Sangan, and even then they can just ash it and you just like lose immediately. So I really don't like Sangan. It's I know there's lots of reasons to play. I know it can search hand traps, you can search multi-faker, and search Concrete. Card sucks, at least in my experience with this entire tournament. Like I said, I drew it a couple times, drew it more than 5 times. I thought that was a pretty big sample size, and every single time it was just the worst card in my hand. Many of those games, one of the problems is that if you don't summon it turn 1, you can never summon it, because to make use of Sangan, you have to use you have to summon the Salamangreat Almirage, and if you do that, you can't multi-faker that turn. And after turn 1, you're always doing multi-faker on your turn and the opponent's turn, so you actually can't ever get used to the Sangan. So the card is just complete trash. I'm sure someone will say it's like amazing. It's probably fine in theory, but in practice it was like really bad. And then for the hand traps, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom. It's just good against every deck. I mean, you guys already know that. 2 copies of Ogre. I felt that like some Guard Dragon deck would be really good, and obviously this card is really strong against Guard Dragon LP. It's pretty much like an auto win if you can do that. It just like ends their turn. I was playing Veiler, and that has applications against like Denko Sekka and Skulljet and stuff, but I just figured out like the LP. I mean, figured out, it's not that hard to figure out, but the LP is just like what matters. And some people were like doing a crazy combo where they would like move the Pisty to like a different spot, so that even if they ogred the LP, you could still resolve it because you had a Link Arrow. But anyway, most people that I played against were not doing that. They didn't have the resources for it, so Ogre I just felt was really good. Also can hit the 1 multi-roll, which came up a couple times. But that was it for the monsters. I really wanted to play the Veiler too, but I just couldn't find room. I didn't want to brick with too many hand traps. There's 8 of them in there right now. So for the spell cards, we have 3 Extravagance. I did not see this card very much day 1. Day 2, I drew this card like it was my job though, so that was cool. And then I played 1 Duality instead of Sangan. This card was insane. Duality is so much better than Sangan. It digs for side deck cards. If your hand is all monsters, Duality can dig for a trap. If your hand is all traps, even though Duality, like, in theory isn't as good as Sangan, because, like, oh, you don't guarantee that you get a monster, a lot of times you do hit a monster or a spoofing or whatever. And Duality is just so good post side decking, just digging for those side deck cards. I wasn't playing any side deck cards that special summon themselves, so it never, like, conflicted with that. Overall, Duality was probably way better than Sangan. I don't know if I necessarily just automatically cut the Sangan for a second Duality, but I definitely consider it. But at the very least, I think finding something to replace Sangan with is like the #1 goal for this deck. That was like the one card I was really disappointed with in this tournament. So that's it for the spells, just those 4. For the traps, 3 copies of Spoofing. I made that video a while ago saying this card is like bad, and I think it wasn't like in the best spot for that one tournament, but like you have to play 3 now. You only have 1 Faker, and it's just really important to cycle through your cards. Bounce a Faker, and then on their turn, or on your turn, you shuffle it back, add Marionetter, combo off. On their turn again, you just add the Faker to your hand, just kind of pop off. Spoofing is really good. You still side it out a lot going to second because it's really bad again. You can't even use it against Colossus. That's a big deal. And then if you want to have to take a huge board, the Spoofings don't really help. And then especially if your opponent like combos off, which happened a few times if you don't draw the right hand traps, you don't want to have a hand that's like 3 Spoofing because they can't do anything with them. But Spoofing's like really good going first, obviously. So 3 of those. And then 2 Protocol, obviously, 1 Manifestation. OCG players play 2. I really felt it was bad in testing. I just really didn't need it. Worth mentioning, just because someone will say, look, you don't know why Manifestation's good at 2. If you play 2 Manifestation, you can do the double Hexia multi-faker combo. It's just like, I didn't feel, honestly, like when you used to do the double Hexia multi-faker combo, a lot of times they just like, you didn't need all those negates. Like, they just couldn't play through a couple of those cards because you have like an effect negation, a 2 spell and trap negations, a bounce, you have like a million other cards, and you have so much like inevitability, which is like what this deck does really well. And I just felt like a lot of times when I did that, like the opponents would just scoop immediately, like they wouldn't have an out to it, because this deck just like 1-for-1 to your opponent down, and then you summon a big board. So I felt like the second Manifestation, I felt like it wasn't worth playing an extra brick, even though it's like not a brick if you have spoofing, but I felt it wasn't worth ever drawing. I never wanted to see 2 Manifestation ever in a game, so I just didn't play 2. But I tested 2, and I just didn't really like it. And if you're full comboing off with the Manifestation, like the double Hexia, like you've already won that game. Like it's over, so it doesn't actually matter. 3 Impermanence. Like I said, I only drew Impermanence Faker 1 time. Obviously, this card's really strong though. I don't think anyone needs to be told that. It's just a really solid card. And then we have 3 copies of Strike. Such a good card, hits hand traps. It's just really solid. I wanted to play, well, I'll show that down. And then we have 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. I can't believe they put this card back to 3. I mean, I can, because like no one really was playing it. I think Manav played it in Skyshifters. They said that on the blog. And there weren't really a lot of Guru control decks or True Draco decks around. They were around, but not like all over the place. And I just can't believe this card's at 3. It's so broken. I drew 2 a lot. I drew 3 a couple times. I don't think in the games where I drew 3 I ever actually got to resolve 3. Because if you resolve 3, you actually go down to 13 life points, because it goes 50, 25, and then it can't go to 12.5. It has to go 13. So I had to ask that ruling, but Solemn Judgment's crazy. I just can't believe the card's at 3. Really helps the deck out. It is worth mentioning that with Multi-Faker, once you get the engine going, right, you don't really notice that you only have 1. So like you only notice it in the terms that you don't open it all the time. With Judgment though, because you can't recycle it, you really do notice the extra copies, because you're just like judging people all the time, and people are always like really pissed when you activate second Judgment. But I like it a lot. It makes the deck a lot better. Then we have 2 Lost Win. Really good card. This is the card that I got a game loss for in top 16, so I have my replacements here, but I wanted to put in the game loss copies because they are super rares. But yeah, so I got a game loss for this in top 16. It's worth mentioning that I got a deck check earlier in the tournament, had these lost ones in there, nothing went bad, whatever, and then in top 16 they deck check everyone, and then I got the game loss for it. I had to replace them. It's fine. They're just doing their jobs. They knew that it wasn't malicious, because if it was malicious, it'd be like it would be the extravagances. It'd be the Multi-Faker that were bent. But this card was just a little bit too bent. And then, like I said, like obviously, even though I got that game 1 loss, I still managed to 2-0 my opponent, which was really good. And it is important to mention that when you get a game 1 loss, you get a chance. You get to choose who goes first or second, and there's no side decking. So honestly, in the entire tournament, the 2 best hands I drew were that match where I had the game 1 loss. So even if I got a warning, not a warning, but an actual penalty for getting the game 1 loss, the deck came through and it wanted me to win, so that was cool. But 2 Lost Win. As far as the actual card, the card's insane. This deck has a problem with big monsters, and this just like shuts them down, so it's really strong. And then it's like a value card because it like sets itself, so that's really cool as well. And then we have 2 Crackdown. I almost didn't play this card. This is going to be a Call by the Grave. I'm really glad I played Crackdown. It's better against like every matchup except for Skystrikers. It's okay against Skystrikers, but Call by the Grave is really good against them. I lost 1 game against Striker. My losses in Swiss were 1 Striker, 1 Salamangreat in the final round. And the Crackdown in the game against Strikers, if it would have been a Call by the Grave, I would have won that one. But it's whatever. But overall, there's 1 crazy game where my opponent like was playing the Warrior Orcus deck, and he like full comboed, and then I just like cracked on his Dingirsu, and then he flipped Crescendo, and then I Judgmented, and I didn't have any monster cards, and then I just sat on his Dingirsu that I cracked down for literally 6 turns, and then I finally drew a monster card, and I had like so many trap cards at that point that he couldn't break his own Dingirsu because that extra deck space is so tight that they only play 1 copy, so that was really funny. So Crackdown, I definitely would not have won that match without Crackdown. That would have been pretty tough. So that card's pretty cool. And the last card, Order. I think I drew this card like twice. It was like okay. It did win me one game, but overall, Order is like not the best this format. I mean, you're gonna play it obviously, but it's not good against Thunder. It's okay against Orcus sometimes. Not if they have an established board. It's only like truly like an auto win against Striker and sometimes Salamangreats if they have like a really spell heavy hand. So that was the main deck, 40 cards. Like I said, one thing I'd change out of that is like just the Sangan like really sucks. So for the extra deck, which this is like the first time I'm seeing it not shuffled because of extravagance, we have 3 Hextia. So there's that guy, he's pretty good. 2 of the Almirage. I just want to mention the Almirage combo because I mentioned this in like a tweet I think, and no one knew what I was talking about. So there are times when you brick in this deck, and the common brick hand, right, is drawing your 2 Garnets. You'll draw Manifestation and Silicoitus, and this is like a common brick, and like what you usually have to do is you like summon the Silicoitus, set the Manifestation, set some other traps, and then your opponent like kills this, then you can like Manifestation, summon this, and once you have this set up, it is a loop, because every single turn you can bounce it back to your hand, this dies, and then you can bounce a card, and then you set the Manifestation every single turn. The problem is with that play is that you have to wait for your opponent to attack this, but so I didn't really use this card with Sangan too often, but if you open this, you can summon this guy and then make the Almirage immediately, and then you can Manifestation this as soon as your opponent's turn starts, so you don't have to wait for them to like kill this guy. I know that seems like it doesn't matter, but it really does matter. I think you should know that play if you're playing this deck, just because it's like if you brick, it's rough, but that's like a way that you can kind of get around bricking, so you don't have to wait for your opponent to kill the Silicoitus. And then 2 Linkribo, obviously, 1 Prime Banshee, obviously that's pretty straightforward. The Clara and Rushka, So you can see here we have 5 cards that you can. So the way that the extra deck was built is that you have 7 cards that are all like good that you don't want to banish. So you can never banish all 7 of them. My banishes were mostly fine. One time I banished 3 Hexia and that sucked, but if you banish like 2 Hexia, it's fine. And then with Declare and Rushka though, you have like 5 cards that can all send Milliseek to the grave, the Sangan. Well, this one can't send Sangan, but all 5 cards that can send Milliseek to the grave. This is a spellcaster for Secret Village, but that doesn't really come up. But those 5 are fine. I don't know. I had a lot of X6 space because I didn't play Super Poly, so that's why we just played a lot of cards. 1 Phoenix, summon it like 1 time to attack for 19. 1 Hida, it's like okay, I guess. 1 Lambda, I summon this a few times just because you can make it like with anything and it has a down pointing arrow, so that's pretty good. And then I played some Link 4s, Avermax, which I did summon. This card is pretty good. Boral Sword and Boral Load, never summoned these, but these cards were all like Super Poly targets for the most part. So I was like, oh, let's put stuff in. Honestly, like it really doesn't matter. Like you could probably play an extra deck that was just like these cards and you'd be fine, but that's it for the extra deck. So that's kind of funny looking through that with it being organized. So for the side deck, we had 3 copies of Border. That's kind of like Extravagance. I never sided into this in day 1, but day 2, I sided Border a lot. It really got in there. You can see it in the round 10 feature match, it being really good. It helped me out in my top 4 match as well, or top 8 match, I mean. So overall, Inspector Border is really good. I understand that it's frustrating to play against, though, but Inspector Border got a lot better, too. You have so many ways to protect it against Prankatops. You have Lost Wind, Crackdown, Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike, all of those stop Prankatops, which is like the main out to Border. And then we have 3 copies of Lancia. Obviously, I think that's like pretty standard, so go over that. 2 no material. This card was total booty. It sucked, honestly. It's good in theory. I drew it like once or twice. In the feature match, I made a Link Creeper with it. That's kind of funny, but the main problem is that this isn't a tempo deck. It's a value deck, and no material and cards like Droll are all tempo cards. They block your opponent by you taking a -1, and so no material. Like when I gnome someone, I gnome their Phoenix, and then like he set 2 pass and like normals on Milliseek, and then he followed by the Milliseek, and then it's like, okay, now I can't kill the Phoenix, so like on his next turn he just summoned the Mermaid anyway, and it's like, okay, well this could have just been a Veiler, and then I would have stopped the Mermaid. So no material. It was like, okay. It seemed really good in theory because I thought a lot of people would be playing, and they were, but I thought people would really be playing that Ib combo deck, and if they summon the Ib in the extra monster zone and you know material, their entire turn descends because they don't have a Link monster, so that's really good. But I don't know if I played again. It was like okay, but it's probably better for like more aggressive decks. And then 3 Secret Village, which was not enough to beat Striker, but it's in there. 2 Evenly Match. This is just like Striker stuff. Didn't side this. I guess I sided like 1 copy of this against some decks just because I didn't have enough cards to side out against, or side in against Thunder when I went second, and I had too many cards I wanted to side out. And then the only card I didn't use in my side deck the entire tournament was Heavy Stormduster. Is this card terrible? No, but I was in here because it felt weird playing a side deck that didn't have any outs to like there can be only 1 or something like that, or like a Royal Decree or whatever. I guess this is not Decree very well unless you chain it, but I just wanted like a card to play if I played against Guru Control or True Draco. Those decks are really tough for Altergeists. They have better back row than Altergeists do. They have just True Draco spells and traps really tough, so I felt like I wanted Heavy Stormduster. Never used it. I sided against Striker just because I had nothing better. I think going forward I would just I think I would just play, I don't know, it's tricky because this event was very meta dense. I only played against 1 rogue deck, and that was round 2. So cards like Heavy Stormduster are worse at these events because there's not a lot of rogue. But at like the YCS, if there's a lot of rogue, then like you want the Duster because it's good against just like random decks or whatever. But I seriously, for this event, I think the right call would have been to do Terraforming and Metaverse, just 2 1-ofs because they're both limited, instead of the Duster. I think that would have given me a better chance against Striker. There was, and it's anecdotal evidence, but there was 1 game specifically where I drew the Duster against Striker, and if it would have been Metaverse or Terraforming, it would have been game over, and that was the time when I was like, yeah, I should have played something else, but I don't know, I kind of went through like the whole tournament. I was like, well, if I play against Guru Control, if I play against True Dracos, the Duster's gonna be really good. And then I kept like looking at the top tables, and I was like, no one's playing those decks. Like, this is gonna be so bad. So I never really sided that other than against Strikers when I had no other option. But yeah, I think that's it for the side deck there, the main extra and side deck. It is very cool to have my first Premier top, and I just, man, you guys, like not even just my friends, but all of the fans, send me messages on Facebook and Twitter, commenting on all my stuff, and in Zodiac, a lot of people were supporting me. I know a lot of people rooting for me. I'm sorry that I just completely punted top 4. If you've seen that feature match, I don't know. I just had a total brain fart. But other than that, I felt like I pretty much played perfectly as far as this deck goes. And I think that one of the reasons I like this deck so much is because I do know how to play it pretty well. Unlike when I play something else and I make some misplays that can cost me games. So with this deck, at least I know what I can do with every hand. And I made some pretty big brain plays, especially if you check out my round 10 feature match. I think I made some pretty insane combos happen. I was just doing cool stuff, and a lot of times people were just oh, I didn't know Altergeists could OTK you or whatever. And it's yeah, I can if you just do it in the right sequence. But yeah, multi-fakers at 1. I know I should have said this at the beginning, but I know multi-fakers at 1. I know I said that I would never play this deck again, and I didn't think, it's weird, I didn't think that what it would take to go back to this deck is that multi-faker got limited, but it's every other deck got hit so much, and I didn't think Salamangreat was good enough with just 1 Gazelle, 1 Circle. In my testing with Salamangreat, it bricked more than half of the time, and maybe I wasn't playing the optimal cards, but you would just draw hands that'd be 4 hand traps and a Spinny, 4 hand traps and a Gazelle, not Gazelle, because that would be really good, 4 hand traps and a Jackal, really whatever, a Jaguar, it's not a Jackal, I don't know. Anyway, I'm tired, but I felt with Salamangreats a lot of times you just draw 1 monster card and 4 hand traps, and it was just so bad every single time. Even when you go first, you open 5 hand traps, and it'd be terrible. Maybe I was just playing the wrong starter cards, but yeah, that's why I didn't play that deck. But I really like Altergeists. Don't know if I'll play them at Portland, but it seemed to go pretty well. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this profile. Hopefully we get more Premier Tops in the future. I'm just excited to get my first one and get a prize card and a mat and all that stuff with my favorite deck in the game, even though multi-faker is limited. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.